You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, Episode 6. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Hello and welcome to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode number 6, Mud's Women. We are your hosts, Jeff.
And Craig.
All right, how's it going, Craig?
All right. I want to talk to you about this book that just came out because It wasn't even on my radar. I don't think it was on yours either.
No.
But it's this book. It's called Star Trek, The Art of Juan Ortiz. And I'm going to read the write-up on it from Amazon.
Cool.
What if Star Trek, the original series episode, was a movie event? What would the movie poster look like? This was the inspiration to develop a one-of-a-kind set of images for the series that launched a franchise. Artist Juan Ortiz has created unique retro-style art with the look of a 60s movie poster, comic book, pulp novel cover, or advertisement. One each for all 80 episodes.
Wow.
And the images I have seen are really, really cool.
Yeah, I after you mentioned that to me, I went on Amazon and looked it up myself, and there's some cool looking stuff out there. So I looked up a little more information just to see what they looked like, and they are pretty impressive work for this guy is a talented dude, and he did a lot of work to put this stuff together.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of cool in the sense that he was able to sort of convey or you know, sort of break down every episode to its rawest elements. So you've got some really, you know, some of the posters are really, you know, it's a minimalist approach in some of them where, you know, it's really just, you know, just the facts, as they used to say on Dragnet, not to drag another show into this.
Yeah, I was impressed at what he was able to do with a minimalistic approach. Like he really seemed to be able to capture the essence of the episodes with relatively almost abstract type of imagery. So the ability to not only to create that, but to envision that and to be able to go through the episodes and have a close enough knowledge of those episodes to produce something like that is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah. And you know what? I do not know what the Mud's Women one looks like, but when I get this book, I will, you know, I'm going to anxiously, devour it, if you will, and really, you know, probably jump right through it. That's probably going to be on my holiday wish list.
Wow. What's the release date on that?
It came out on the 3rd.
Oh, it came out already. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's only a couple days ago.
Yeah, and once again, it's called Star Trek, The Art of Juan Ortiz. Juan also has a website. It seems like he's pretty closely related to Star Trek. And it looks like the posters in this book, it looks like at one point he was doing a series where you could buy these in poster form. And I guess this book sort of bundles them all together because, you know, while they're not incredibly expensive, the prints, it would be very, very, very costly to get all 80.
Oh, I would imagine so, because I think weren't the individual prices in the $30 to $40 range?
Yeah, I think it was like $34.95 for a set. So I'm not even sure how many came in a set, but still, that's a lot of that's 80 episodes, and then also so you would need the retail space for it too. So having it all condensed right into a book is kind of neat, and then maybe you can pick and choose what episodes you want to put up on your wall.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, this is the kind of stuff that I guarantee you're going to start seeing bootlegged versions of at the cons and the conventions, so that you know, with the vendors will have, you know how they kind of bootleg people stuff and print them on those big 11 by 17 pages. I guarantee you're going to start seeing these there.
Yeah, I actually have quite a few classic Bond movie posters.
Yeah, I know. I have some Star Trek stuff that I picked up at the last Monster Mania Con, I think it was. They're beautifully detailed, and they're not even credited to anybody, so I have no idea who even originally drew these things, but Some of them are really, really nice looking. I have like a poster for a Muck Time,
Oh, cool.
really nice
Mm.
looking poster, and one for City on the Edge of Forever, the
Oh,
Edith
nice.
Keeler Must Die, really beautiful stuff. So, and they're not even, they have no little signatures or anything, so I can't even tell you who did them.
Yeah,
But I guess I could probably Google around and figure it out.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely look forward to talking this book with you a little more when we both get our hands on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what
Definitely
else
right
is
up our
going on?
alleys. Well, I don't know how much of a fan you are of these things, but I'm a huge fan. And when I saw this announcement, I practically jumped out of my seat. So there is a new William Shatner album
Oh,
announced for release on October the 8th of this year. And as with the previous Shatner albums, this one also seems to follow a theme. And this again is right up my alley. It is a prog rock album
oh wow, okay.
featuring such greats as Vince Gill, Mick Jones, Rick Wakeman of Yes,
I was assuming I would see his name.
yep, and Steve Vai,
Wow.
and others. So I'm very, very excited about this. So I don't know how excited you would be about a Shatner record, but I was hoping that he was going to push out another one because the last two have been really, really good in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Now the last couple you've put out, they've been mainly cover songs, right?
No,
Oh,
well, let me just the well, besides the Transform Man,
hmm,
which came out in the '60s, which was
yeah.
all cover songs and Shakespearean readings and the like, the um the album that came out a few years ago that he did with Ben Folds
Yes.
called Has Been was mostly originals.
Okay.
There were a couple covers like Common People,
Yeah.
um,
And didn't he do Iron Man?
not on that record.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
No, and the record that came out after that, uh, which was or an album of all covers, and it was like a space travel theme.
Oh,
So
right.
he had
Okay.
Space Oddity on there,
Yeah.
and She Blinded Me with Science, which we used in the as the intro to the
Last
last
week.
show. Yep,
Yeah.
and a bunch of. But they actually on the last record he had I think it was Seeking Major Tom, I believe is the title of
Yeah.
that one. There's a Pink Floyd cover on there.
Okay. Now, hey, did you buy that by any chance? Did you buy that at Vintage Vinyl?
The last Shatner record?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I was with you when you bought that.
You may well have been.
Yeah.
You may well have been. I remember being really excited when I saw it there. It was a double disc. So that was even more exciting that
Hmm.
there was a whole bunch of content. And as cheesy as people think Shatner's music career is, I actually really entertained by it. There's some stuff that makes my big playlist that I keep on my phone. So I have a couple thousand songs on my phone. It's a condensed version of all of my favorite tracks from my music collection, and there's quite a few of his tracks on there.
Yeah, I have to fess up that I I have little more than a passing knowledge of his musical output.
Well, maybe this is time for you to get educated.
Yeah, you know what? No better time than the present, right?
Yeah, perhaps maybe next time we do some recording, I'll bring over the albums that I have, and you can take them for a spin and see what you think.
Yeah, yeah, very
So
cool.
it can be said, I think that Has Been, which was the release with Ben Folds a few years back,
Hmm.
was actually quite a serious record. It wasn't really meant to be a goof for the most
Yeah.
part. There were a couple of kind of tongue-in-cheek tracks on there, but there was some really serious stuff on there, and it's definitely worth a listen. As a spoken word piece with a talented guy like Ben Folds behind it and some other talented artists on there, it really shapes up to be a quality record, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's definitely cool to see that that Shatner is still producing in several different mediums for a guy who could be enjoying his retirement or
Yeah.
his retirement years. And he did the one man show. He's starred in sitcoms recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's written books. And he's doing his music. So
And
it,
documentaries. So
yeah,
the
that one he did,
captains
the
and
Captains was
oh,
very, 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 very cool. I
that was
actually did a
great.
write up for that when it came out, and yeah, it's cool to see that he keeps busy and sort of keeps Captain Kirk
Yeah.
out there for everybody to see.
The original Captain Kirk lives on,
Yeah.
despite Chris Pine.
So this week we're going to be talking about Mud's Women.
Yeah. So are we ready to dive into some of the info? You have anything else to share before that?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay, so the original release date, the original air date rather, for Mud's Women was October 13th of 1966. So, about a month from where we are today. And the remastered version aired on April 26th of 2008.
Yeah. It's still interesting to me how they decided to remaster these. This was the 66th of 80 in terms of release order.
Yeah.
So it was one of the earliest produced, but one of the last to get the remastered treatment. So
yeah, and the strange thing is this is a rather popular episode as far as villains are concerned. A lot of people, when you talk about Star Trek villains, a lot of fans will jump to not only, of course, Khan, but you jump to guys like Harry Mudd. So it's surprising to me that they waited so long to remaster Mud's Women.
So I wonder where the other Mud episode fit in the remaster. You'd assume that if this was 66, it was probably some point after that.
You would think. Well, let me take a look real quick here. And
all right.
Wow, this is kind of surprising. So the second Mud episode, which was part of the second season, aired on November 3rd of 67. But the remastered version of that episode was the 6th of 80 produced. So quite significantly earlier, and it was aired on October 14th of 2006. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, you know what? For all the confusion we've talked about the original running order of the series, it sounds like the remastered running order might even be more confusing.
Yeah, wow, that is kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, and I'll give a real quick rundown of the episode. The Enterprise rescues a con man named Harry Mudd, who is trafficking in mail order brides.
Yeah, intergalactic pimp. Great stuff. Really
so do you want to get to it?
Yeah, why don't we get to it? So we'll start our episode in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Mud's Women. A place where all of us would probably like to be.
So with this episode, we start right in the thick of it.
Yep.
We have the remastered version of Mud's or the ship that they are sort of pursuing. It's a ship that they tried to, I guess, hail, and it's refusing to talk to them, and they chase it into an asteroid field, which is very, very Star Wars-like.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it?
Before Star Wars.
I have to say, while we're getting a couple good shots of this other helmsman here, next, and notice Uhura is in a gold uniform in this episode, so we're still not fully gelled. This other helmsman, I'm glad they got rid of him eventually, because he's really he doesn't really seem like he fits the part. And I realize when they bring Chekhov in quite a bit later, but there's a pretty cool remastered effect here with the asteroid belt. Something that they couldn't do originally back in the 60s when this episode was produced. They really didn't have the budget or the capability to produce this much of a cool looking little maneuverable ship there, and the asteroids
even the
flying
asteroids
all around it. They look pretty good.
Yeah, I'm actually going to tell you for most of the episodes that we've done so far, I have watched the original version of the episode, and then for the commentary track
that's commitment.
I watched the remastered version, and it keeps it a little interesting for me. Not that it's not interesting to sit here and talk to you and watch the episodes,
of course,
but
I don't think so.
I figured if there's ever going to be a time where I'm going to see the differences between the original and the remastered, this is the time to do it.
Yep, absolutely, I agree.
So basically, the Kirk is putting a tremendous amount of resource drain on the Enterprise, protecting the ship that's in the asteroid field with them from being destroyed by asteroid hits.
Yep.
So
And
one
is this
interesting
is this the first time we realize or that we're getting a taste of the ship actually being able to be drained of resources?
yeah,
It may be the first time. I have to go back and look at the previous episodes, but I don't recall there being any episodes that had a significant drain on ship's power.
Oh, sure, and this is definitely the first reference of lithium crystals.
I was going to mention that too. Yeah.
You know, which at some point mutated into dilithium crystals, or was dilithium something that they eventually graduated to? Showing a little bit of my my Star Trek, lack of Star Trek knowledge when it comes to lithium versus dilithium.
Dilithium, right? Yeah. I'm sure somebody listening to this podcast right now is going, "You guys are idiots. How do you not know?"
Yeah. So Mud's Women was one of 3 scripts that was submitted for, sort of perusal as the second pilot. Yeah. And watching this, it really seems like a weird episode to present as a pilot episode of a show.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing was they were thinking, hey, we'll have 3 real sexy women. And maybe that will get the executives to say, okay, maybe you guys aren't as cerebral as as we thought.
Well, it's a good idea. Well, actually, I'm kind of thankful that it didn't work out to be the pilot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really enough on display here to introduce it as the first episode of a series.
No.
Not that I think Where No Man Has Gone Before is really good for that either. So they're beaming the people from the other ship over before it's destroyed.
What an outfit!
Yeah.
What an outfit! You know, it's funny. When you look at this episode, and you'll see some scenes coming up in this episode where you realize just how tall Mud was.
Yeah.
He towers over everyone.
Yeah.
And even Nimoy, who was one of the tallest people in this entire show. And
here he's introducing himself as Leo Walsh, which we all, if we don't already know, we will soon know is an assumed name. He's keeping his identity a secret for some reason. And now they're buzzing or beaming in the only 3 other people that were on the craft.
Supplementing with battery power. So we've now established that this ship has batteries as well as this lithium.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And now that we've established we have 3 lithium crystals, right?
Yeah. Which again,
great effect on the remastered version here with the ship getting blown up.
And
very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
So now the 3 people that are being beamed up there, they're in limbo somewhere.
Yep. And we'll see a little bit of the transporter heroics. All you got to do is pull those 3 levers down. Yep. Whenever something's going wrong, you pull the levers down.
And va 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 boom.
And boom. And even Spock is fascinated.
Yeah.
By these 3. Uh-oh. Look at McCoy. He can wipe the drool off your face. Scotty apparently is interested in the dark-haired. McCoy is interested in the bombshell in the red dress. Nobody seems to like the chick in the purple dress, but I think she's the best-looking one out of the 3, honest with you.
Yeah, and out of the 3, she was the only one that actually worked as a model.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the 2 other girls later, but I believe that she was an Austrian model.
She's Austrian, yep.
Whereas the other 2 ladies were actresses or somehow involved in the entertainment industry. Kirk is very, very
Kirk
sort
is
of
mad
hot
right now. Yeah,
that he's sort of done what he's done to his ship, in the service of getting these people safely off of their ship, which they had, put a lot of people in danger.
So Kirk doing his duty here to save these people from even despite the fact that they were running away.
Yeah,
maybe some other means or other reasons for not wanting to be captured.
Yeah.
But Kirk still stuck his neck out.
Yeah. Walsh will make a kind of a weak argument later as to why he was disobeying their their hail.
Well, quite the charlatan he turns out to be.
Yeah.
So here we go, and they all peel off, but looking backward alluringly. And here we see McCoy and Scotty are trying to keep their desires in check.
Yeah. I'd have to imagine that, prime time in the mid '60s.
Yeah,
this was probably
pretty racy.
Interesting viewing for a lot of teenage boys.
Oh, sure,
they got a little bit of a treat.
Quite racy. Well, it's funny that some of the outfits, all of the female outfits, the uniforms, could be considered quite racy. Those skirts couldn't be much shorter.
Yeah, and
even when you see females who are not of the ship, a lot of times their outfits, costumes and outfits are very racy as well.
Mm-hmm. We had a quick little moment there where Mudd identifies Spock as being partially Vulcan.
That was something I wanted to bring up as well. Like, so how does Mudd know
that he's not a
full Vulcan? Yeah. Right. I mean, when you see Spock, we won't see any other Vulcans for quite a while in this show, but when you see Spock next to other Vulcans, he doesn't really have differences in appearance that would make him stand out as not fully like Vulcans. When you see people, in real life that are of mixed races, usually you can tell, like, you can tell when people are human beings are of mixed origin. But so how does Mudd have that type of knowledge? So have we gotten a little bit of a reveal here about Mudd's, I don't want to say worldliness, because it's, what's the term for galaxiness or universalness?
Yeah.
So he's been around.
I think the one thing you can sort of point to here is that the Spock character at this point in the production wasn't, and we've used this term before, fully baked. So Spock's right here is a good example. He's got a little bit of a smirk. So,
whoa,
I think Mudd might be saying, "Hey, this guy is a little bit more emotional than most Vulcans."
Yeah, but that little head flip that Spock just would make a great GIF. I got to remember and go back and get one and make a GIF out of that.
Here's Walsh explaining why he was evading the ship, and this might be a good time to talk about the actor playing Leo Walsh / Mudd. It is an actor by the name of Roger C. Carmel, who died in 1986. And this guy, I've got to tell you, he did some great work.
Like what?
He was a one-time voice of Smokey the Bear.
Get out.
And he also voiced Cyclonus on 2 seasons of the Transformers animated series.
I'm a huge Transformers fan, so there we go.
And he also appeared as Senor Noggles in TV ads for the Southern California Noggles fast food restaurant chain.
Oh, really?
Chain.
Never
and
heard
Noggles,
of that chain.
They merged with Del Taco in 1988, which is still around.
Yep.
But if you go online, you can find a lot of those Noggles TV ads with Senor Noggles. And Carmel he was one of 2 guys to play Senor Noggles.
Interesting aside note here is knowing what you know about George Takei today.
Yeah.
Now here's George Takei on Star Trek pretending to be interested in these girls, right?
Doing a good job.
So doing a great job. Doing a great job. And there's actually, is there a point in one of the future Star Trek, maybe Star Trek 6, where he feigns interest in a Klingon woman?
I think so, yeah.
Him and Chekhov are eyeballing up one of the Klingon women.
And now here is Walsh / Mudd conferring with his women, and he's basically asking the security guys to leave, which they cannot. And he's telling the girls basically,
don't submit to a medical exam.
Yeah, but don't lie. Answer questions when they're asked of you.
But what if they ask about, there's some, now we're seeing there's a little bit of a mystery going on here. What's the truth? Just let Leo take the hard, and he's in character. He's using his assumed name still.
Yeah. And he's got that wonderful sort of, it's like a globe almost earring.
Yeah. And she called him Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great earring. It's only in one ear, too.
Yeah.
That had to annoy the heck out of him.
Sure, it's got to have some kind of weight to it.
But he's selling it.
Yeah.
He's selling the character.
Now, Mudd is one of those characters who is going to pop up on another episode of the series, which is kind of rare.
Two more.
And he's also, I guess
In the
you're counting the
animated
animated
series.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk, I guess, about the writer at this point,
Sure.
because he was involved in some of those future episodes. Stephen Candell, working from a story by Gene Roddenberry. He also wrote episodes of Gidget,
Ooh.
Batman 66, I
Nice.
Spy, The Wild Wild West, Mission Impossible, Mannix, Wonder Woman, Heart to Heart, MacGyver. And he also, in addition to the Mud episode of the
Five till
animated
seven.
series, yes, he wrote 2 episodes of the animated series. So a very interesting career.
Yeah.
That spanned, decades, if he was writing episodes of MacGyver in the 80s.
Yeah, it's one thing we've come across a lot about in these Star Trek episodes. These writers that write these episodes have really gone on to have long writing careers, and
Yeah.
a lot of other shows that really were popular
Oh, yeah.
throughout the years. So, I think it says a lot about the quality of some of these old episodes, and you see these talented writers who worked on this show.
I think it also speaks to sort of how the system was in the 60s.
Oh, sure. The Writers Guild there.
Yeah. So now we have
Oh, this is great.
our first formal hearing, if you will, that we're witnessing.
Yeah, and this is another demonstration of technology. The Enterprise computer is apparently also a very advanced polygraph.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's easy enough for the computer to scan or listen for fluctuations in his voice or deviations in his speech pattern to
Spock's size.
yeah. And here we learn finally that Leo Walsh is in fact Harry Mudd.
And the computer still says incorrect.
Yes.
Harcourt Fenton Mudd.
Yeah. And we learn that that Mudd's got a little bit of history.
Yeah. And the computer has all of his records here. Here we go. Full data coming on the screen. Oh. And he's got like a kind of digital driver's license here.
Yeah. And he's basically a smuggler.
And the girls are a little worried here that the computer can read their minds, but
And he's being listed as 6'1", which seems kind of
yeah,
short.
I think actually he was 6'3".
Yeah.
I believe. Because I think Nimoy is 6'1".
Yeah. Well, he is wearing boots in this episode, though.
That's true. That's true. Future Police record code. You see that?
Yes.
Future Police.
Yes.
Without an idea, we've got to pause that at one point and read that
Yeah.
that little that note about him.
Here's a nice shot of the globe-like
Yeah,
hearing.
that weird, bizarre-looking a vessel without a master's license.
But he does have a master's ticket.
Nope, and it was revoked.
Yes.
Can't get anything by the Enterprise computer there, Harcourt Fenton. Not gonna work. You might make Spock's eye again if you try hard enough. Leo Walsh used to be the captain on this trip and passed away, right? And here we go, more bizarro.
Yeah, so we learned that
Explanations.
basically Mudd was sort of dealing in identity theft.
Yeah, really. Now, but we're left to wonder here if these women have some sort of mystical powers over men. What it's not really explained yet, so they're letting the audience fizzle on this and try to figure out if they have some sort of a sway over men.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to work on Kirk though, but it got Spock to notice.
Yeah. I think Kirk as captain is showing a little bit more strength, and now they're
Yeah, I think he's riding that wave of anger. He's still pretty pissed.
yeah. The computer was doing a beam on the females, and they're getting no information.
Decipherable reading. So what are they?
Yeah, and then here's a sort of a stat that's going to be stricken from the record. The captain's going to have Spock go back and erase that, but they're saying that the crew have a heightened blood pressure and perspiration, and basically the male members of the crew are hot and bothered.
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say those 3 chicks are salt monsters. They're salt monsters, and they're waiting for the right time to pounce. That's the mystery here. I solved it.
Although they're not showing any signs of needing to feed. So
Well, maybe we haven't seen the evidence yet. Maybe there's some bodies in some lockers. You never know. So now the computer can also discern, your true intentions.
And while we have another little gap, I guess we'll talk about director Harvey Hart, who died in 1989. He was a film and TV director, and he won a Golden Globe for the miniseries East of Eden in 1981, which I'm familiar with in name only.
So now we're learning something interesting here. If we're learning the truth about these women, is that they all come from planets that have no men. So herein lies a couple of different angles. So one is Mudd running some sort of international, mail order bride service?
Pretty much.
So essentially he's an intergalactic pimp in a way, right? He's transporting this cargo.
Yeah.
To these lonely miners on another planet.
Yeah.
So
who are looking for long-term companionship to be fair.
To be fair. Well, this is another thing that kind of bugs me about this episode is that, as progressive as Star Trek was, these three women, for some reason or another, are relegated to wanting nothing more than being married in life. Like, that I think it kind of casts a strange light because you see these successful women that are standing side by side with the men on this ship. They're scientists, they're doctors and nurses, communications people. They're integral parts of the Enterprise and the workings of Starfleet in general. But yet here we are seeing, three women who, I guess in the 60s, men still felt that, well, some people feel that way today too, but, in the 60s especially, there was still a very, chauvinistic way about society, and these women, I guess, are written in such a way that they fit into the 60s, but they don't necessarily seem to fit into the same molds as women in the future, in the Star Trek universe do.
You could almost sort of maybe equate these women to reality show stars, or housewives, if you will,
Quote, unquote,
Real Housewives
of something or
of
other,
Rigel 12.
Right, yeah. And now he's gonna take over the Enterprise, as everybody seems to want to take over the Enterprise.
Yeah, but he's pretty sure that he will, because unbeknownst to the captain, he has plans for Eve to do a little bit of seducing.
Oh, yeah. 14 hours out of Rigel 7. Rigel 7 is a really popular planet.
Yeah. I said Rigel 12 before, incorrectly.
Yeah, so lithium replacements.
And then we get the title of the episode.
Mudd's Women.
Which...
There he was.
Yes.
But the women are allowed the free roam of the ship. Yeah. So, so here we go. Here's seduction 1.
Yes, Ruth.
She's going to seduce good old Dr. McCoy here.
Yeah, and this is an actress by the name of Maggie Threat, who, aside from Trek, is mainly known as a singer. She put out a couple of records in the 60s, and her entertainment career basically ended in 1970 when she was married and became devoted to raising a family. So,
look at that.
It's interesting to see these people who sort of have second lives, if you will, where, she was, in the public spotlight and then decided, I guess, to become a, devoted wife and mother, which is kind of interesting.
She pulled a Rick Moranis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she's out there somewhere, a grandmother at this point, but
she's enjoying her life.
Yeah, and her grandkids can say, "Hey, our grandmother at one time was
on Star Trek."
Yes.
I'm sure they sent her a copy of the Blu-ray so she can watch it with her family at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Look at Grandma seducing old Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, and here McCoy is trying to figure out why his medical equipment is sort of acting up when Ruth stands in front of it. And it almost looked like the way she posed, she was the one that had a trigger.
Yeah, she was pressing a button to turn those lights on. They have some sort of trigger on the side there.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe that they couldn't have done that off screen.
Yeah, really. Yeah, we see McCoy, you're a little weak-willed here, buddy.
Yeah, and Ruth has arguably the most provocative costume of all the girls. I know
You think?
the one girl has a very low cut, but here Ruth has a cut down the side where you can see the bottom of her breast, which is a little provocative.
Uh-oh.
I mean, Eve for the most part is pretty much covered. It's form fitting. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, when you got the slice across the bottom there, so
yeah.
you almost get a little glimpse of private areas there.
Yeah.
And they send Eve in here to
work her mojo.
Oh boy, the men are following her with their eyes.
Yeah, and Eve is played by Karen Steele, who unfortunately we lost in 1988. She died of cancer.
That's a shame.
But she had a lot of TV appearances. I include some of the multiple appearances she had. She appeared on 2 episodes of Perry Mason, and also 2 episodes of Surfside 6, which was a detective show.
What?
And she also appeared in the Oscar-winning film Marty with Ernest Borgnine. Ernest Borgnine went on to win an Oscar for his performance in Marty. And we both had the opportunity to meet him.
Ernest
Borgnine.
More important than winning awards, he got to meet us.
Yes. And I got to say, he
was a cool guy.
Yeah, here in Jersey, we have the Monster Mania convention that happens.
We are very fortunate.
Twice a year. It happens in the spring and fall.
Yep.
The fall edition normally falls right around Halloween. Mm-hmm. And it's currently being held up in Parsippany, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, when we went on a Friday night to meet Borgnine.
Yep.
So the Friday night session is sort of shortened. Normally on Saturday it goes from 11 to 5 or something.
Yeah, typically less crowded on Friday nights, which is why we usually opt for that one.
Yeah, so this one went from like 6 to 11 or something.
Yeah.
Borgnine, out of all the people there, was the only guy that did not take a break.
He was a trooper, man.
Yeah,
and he at his age.
Yeah.
He really, and he gave each fan who came over to him a couple of minutes of his time, which is not a common thing at these conventions. Usually you're in and you're out. They snap a picture with you and pat you on the back and send you on your way. But Borgnine actually sat to sit down, introduced himself. Mm-hmm. It was really, really cool to see.
We didn't get Borgnine until late into the night. His line
he's still a line too.
And I even asked him about it. I said, "Mr. Borgnine, you didn't take a break," and he said, "What am I going to take a break for?"
He's a trooper, man.
Yeah, so it's very cool to sort of see that, I guess, that old school Hollywood mentality there, where he had a job to do and he was going to do it. Whereas there were certain people at the convention who were away from their table more than they were at it. Mm-hmm. So the girls seem kind of agitated here.
Yeah,
and we're going to get our we're going to sort of get final indication of or a final reveal of what exactly is going on here, and the secret that these girls have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's indication
the guard outside his door.
Yeah, of how high the Enterprise is when it is sort of orbiting a planet, and Ruth indicated that they'll be hundreds miles above. So, and here, the whole plan is in jeopardy because
Eve's got some trouble with this, man.
And she says flat out, "I don't like you to Mud."
Yeah, she's a good girl, I think.
Yeah.
I think she's got the most morality out of all of them. Yeah. And she's really struggling with this. And she's selling it, man.
Yep, she's not feeling
She doesn't
very
feel
well.
good.
And look at those nails, man. She's got a nice manicure. I don't know if those are press-on nails or...
I don't know, but they could cut an eyeball right out of your head.
They are sharp.
And Mr. Farrell, boy, he's preoccupied.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be relieved of duty.
And Captain getting a little stern there, saying this is the last time I'm giving an order twice.
Kirk is a solid captain. He's not going to put up with any of this nonsense.
And it is Rigel 12.
Is it?
As Scotty just indicated.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe my Roman numeral reading is off. I guess my advanced age.
Yeah. It is Rigel 12. So we've seen Rigel 7 in an earlier episode, and now we're in Rigel 12. So we see that the Enterprise is in its 5-year mission is sort of really leisurely going through. You don't know how many planets there are in the Rigel system.
No clue, but they'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. and we're figuring out something's going on here, measurement for measurement, than any other woman you've known.
McCoy's saying, what makes these ladies different?
What makes them different?
Yeah.
So herein, now I think this is a great time for me to dive into the old philosophical overall theme of this episode. And to be honest with you, this is the first time I've had a hard time discerning a real overall overarching theme or philosophy. So I had a couple of different things.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that comes up near the end of this episode is, and this is kind of questionable, Kirk comes up with this, but Kirk seems to imply that a woman's true beauty comes from her confidence. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't have to look good as long as she's confident, right? And I agree with that to a certain extent. But that message is only a tiny fraction of what we're getting from this episode. It only comes out at the end. So if you take the entire episode as a whole, that's not really the prevailing message of the whole show, is it? I don't think it is. But what is there a message of this show? I mean, what could be taken from this show? Don't do drugs, right? Don't do drugs. Yeah. So the girls are taking some sort of a drug that alters their appearance. Don't trust charlatans. I don't know. Obviously Mud is a charlatan and he's leading these girls down a bad path, for his own ends. What else? Pimps still exist in the future? Yeah. I don't know.
I think if anything, it's wow. And now Ruth is showing that she doesn't look quite as attractive as she used to. And
Mud can't find the pills.
I think if anything, it's a commentary on the fact that even in the future, as advanced as society becomes, it's still going to be an image-based society. It's still going to be based on
You think it's that grim of a message? Wow, that is a tough one to swallow, man.
Well, I'm not sure. I wouldn't consider that grim, but I mean, I think the idea that beauty, even though there is a sort of a, the eye of the beholder type idea, is that beauty is still going to be considered important.
Man, you think that even with all of these great technological advances, the fact that we've breached the stars, we've traveled light years away from our planet of origin, we've met alien races. I mean, our minds have to have been expanded millions of times just by realizing we're not alone in the universe, but yet we're still shallow enough to be so focused on appearance that these women would have to take pills to make themselves appear more beautiful just to get what they want.
I don't know, because if we sort of jump ahead 150 years or so, or however long the next generation,
beyond our own lifetimes.
Well, no, but I mean into the next generation, where Picard is a captain who has male pattern baldness, and you'd think that in that future they would have cured it, but it also suggests
maybe
that
they did.
It doesn't matter.
To him, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it does show that there is a little bit of a difference in society in, being accepted or accepting baldness and still be able to be a captain. I know in Love Boat, Captain Stubing, nobody questioned his ability to captain, and he was bald. But, I know a lot of people argued at the time it came out, there's a bald Starfleet captain, and there's the idea that it didn't matter. So maybe there's a double standard in the future where men are allowed to sort of...
I think what we're seeing is that, these episodes, this series and the Next Generation, they're reflections of the times in which the episodes were written, not the times that they were writing about in the episode. So, that was one of my big problems with the episode, like I talked about before. I think that... it focuses a lot on, the appearance of these three women. But historically, on the rest of the series, the success and fulfillment of the women on the show is not based on their appearance, but based on what they're doing.
Their ability.
What their brains, their abilities, So that's a tough pill for me to swallow. Yeah. Pun not intended, but maybe sort of intended.
Yeah. And here we have a great scene where Kirk pretty much flat out says these women are not a commodity that can be traded, because the miners are now up and they're saying, we're willing to give you the lithium crystals in exchange for Mud and his women. And without them, you're going to be stranded here in space or worse. And Kirk comes back and says, yeah, you may cripple our Starfleet, but how crippling would it be to not have any Starfleet support? So I kind of like,
yeah, it's a good negotiator. It's a good piece of Kirk there.
I kind of like that Kirk is able to sort of wield the entire power of Starfleet here and say to these miners, hey, you're not going to push us around.
No, man.
And also that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Oh, where Kirk is basically willing to sacrifice the Enterprise, to basically, stay morally correct.
He's sticking to his ideals, which is great, and he's not allowing these women to be traded because, I think most people would agree that, human lives are not something that can be commoditized, maybe. Hopefully most people would agree to that.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that ideal exists in the future. This is a nice remastered shot here.
We see the different sort of the domiciles they have set up.
Yep. And of course they don't beam directly inside.
Yeah. It doesn't look like a very fun planet
No.
either.
Not at all. Not at all.
You can imagine that the miners down there, the three of them, and they each have their own quarters, which is kind of neat.
This is what's maddening to me about this, though. This is the future. Yeah. They build these huts and domiciles for these guys, but they leave 3 guys alone on a mining planet. That's just not necessary. Why are these guys alone? It makes no sense to me whatsoever why they would be left alone on a mining planet. Just 3 guys.
Yeah.
3 guys. That's it.
Well, so we could have a nice, simple sort of resolution for our episode.
Yeah. Again, plot convenience.
Yep, it's a plot convenience, which, unfortunately...
Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean I can't question it.
Yeah, oh, sure.
I'm still questioning it. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And they're sort of pairing off.
Now, Kirk is a hell of a guy for not whipping out his phaser and pinning that guy to the wall and saying, give us the goddamn crystals already. Yeah. What are you messing around for?
Which is what you'd expect. Kirk almost sort of handles this in a Picard-type manner.
He does. Now, this is significant to me right here. He is telling her how crappy of a planet this is to live on. It is a terrible place. The wind is howling all the time. You're hearing some magnetic storm going on here. This poor woman who's been flown halfway across the galaxy, all 3 of them, are now going to be living in this crap hole?
Yeah. But they'll be taking care of their man.
Oh, it's frustrating. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. And they were just, all 3 of them were just on a starship where they all bore witness to women who were productive, successful, and fulfilled people. Yeah. And they still opt for this kind of life, not having seen what potentials were out there for them. They still opt for this garbage planet with these questionable guys. I mean, they don't even know these guys.
Yeah.
But I met them 5 minutes ago.
I think that is still something that exists today in 2013. Well, there are women out there in society that sort of let themselves sort of be limited in what they can do, or get trapped in situations that they could easily get out of, or could get out of with a little bit of work. I think it speaks to the nature of humans in general, sort of boiling themselves down to the lowest common denominator and taking the easy way out a lot.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I understand that, and I understand that's the reality that we're living in today. But I don't want to accept that as a vision of the future, because there's so many great things that happen in Star Trek that it makes a great view of the future where races are equal, men and women are equal, and I just this episode to me kind of flies in the face of that that ethos. I don't know. This is just something that's tough for me to swallow.
Do you think though that that's also sort of a result of this episode sort of occurring so early in the series?
Potentially, yeah. From a writing aspect, I mean, it of course
it is based on a story by
it
Gene
reflects
Roddenberry,
and which surprised the hell out of me.
Which again could be sort of based, and you mentioned this earlier in the episode, based on the sort of society's vision, or
Yep.
the way they looked at and treated women in the mid '60s, and Roddenberry, probably wasn't as advanced as he'd like to think that the culture of the show was. He was still a man living in the mid 1960s.
Yep. So now we've lost Eve. She's out in the tundra.
Yeah, for over 3 hours. They were using the ship's.
Wow, man. I don't know how she could survive out in that sandstorm for that long, unless she's found some sort of shelter.
Yeah. Well, last episode we saw Sulu and those crew members spend quite a few hours in sub-zero temperatures, sub-100 degree,
But they were warming phasers with rocks, man. Uh-oh, magnetic storm's getting worse. Yeah. Both of them are missing. So Childress and the woman are missing. Kirk is visibly concerned.
One thing that I think is interesting here is we're seeing the bridge here. The color palette they used on the bridge with the reds. That's one thing that I kind of miss in even the theatrical versions of Trek, and even the reboot Trek they did in 2009 and earlier this year.
Well, from what I read, the reason why you have such a great use of bright colors in this was because this was the beginning of the true adoption of color TV, and NBC wanted to be at the
forefront.
They wanted to be the first all color network, right? So the philosophy of this was, you know what, we're going to be the first color network. Let's give them color, man. Let's load this show up with as much color. So you have like a lot of reds. You have the colorful buttons all over the place. You have the yellow light there in the background. And, you got the colorful uniforms.
Now, the one thing that also interests me about the bridge here is, I guess it looks a little bit darker in the back, but you'd think that they would be running on sort of a reduced, essential, equipment, sort of a system, a status here. You think they'd have different levels they would run out, and that a lot of the bridge wouldn't be lit up if it didn't really serve any purpose. Yeah. So here's Eve sort of, doing what she does best.
Yeah, we're going to get this fucking Beauty and the Beast nonsense here. This guy's a total D-bag.
Yeah.
Total D-bag.
He's basically playing down her, he's machoing it up here. And he's saying, don't think that, you're going to,
horrible.
Completely sweep me away here with your cooking.
Uh-oh.
And it's kind of neat here because Eve gives it right back to him. She says,
she does.
I'm doing the best with what you left.
Yeah.
And you left me pots that pretty much had your leavings on them. And she says, you never thought to just hang the pots outside to get sandblasted and cleaned? Yeah. So she basically calls him, she calls his intelligence into question a little bit here.
Yeah, and here he is. For a guy who was willing to threaten a starship captain for those women, he sure is being an unappreciative.
Well, you know what? He's working from that playbook that says the best way to get a woman is to sort of, don't show interest in her. So he's doing that reverse psychology here that I guess men love to use on women.
Yeah, I've never subscribed to that playbook, so this is jarring for me.
So here she is saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
you should. Why not just let the pans be sandblasted?"
Herder, here he goes. Oh, I never thought about that. Herder.
And as much as he doesn't want to, he's also showing that the food
There he
sort
goes.
of did taste good.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. He's hung the pans out. And they don't have replicators down there.
No.
They still cook food manually.
Yep.
And look, round playing cards.
Mhm.
But they still have diamonds, hearts. So
Spades and
typical playing cards survive
yeah.
into the future.
Well, I mean, not to get into the whole history of playing cards here, but
Oh, sure.
The deck that we're used to with at least the 4 suits dates back a couple hundred years at our point. So you'd imagine that a couple hundred years in the future, they'd still, subscribe to that.
Well, what really, I find that quite
spades.
upsetting because, that these playing cards survive, but I don't see Uno anywhere in Star Trek. Uno didn't make it.
And you'd also think that,
Chutes and Ladders didn't make it.
Yeah, they've graduated to sort of a 3-dimensional chess. Why didn't cards, sort of evolve
Why couldn't I have a 4-dimensional mousetrap?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Settlers of Catan, that is perfect for this.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And Eve's starting to show a little bit of... she's not looking as fresh as she did when she got down there.
No. Well, Mud's going to have to come clean here. The Venus drugs.
Yeah. And this is where we get sort of a little placebo effect from Kirk here. They're going to slip her basically the water pill version of the Venus drug. And Eve is going to show results even without it. Which gets to your sort of thesis from the beginning of the episode that says, confidence is really what matters, and it's not the external, beauty that a woman shows.
Yeah. Uh-oh. He's putting it together. Oh, boy. You've been had.
But ultimately, Childress is down with it, saying, "Hey, the external beauty is really what I care about."
Yeah. Subspace radio marriage.
That's a great name for either a band or an album.
Man. Subspace radio marriage. We should title this episode of the podcast Subspace. Oh, God. Radio marriage.
This guy's basically saying, "Hey, you're kind of ungrateful."
Total D-bag.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of commentary going down here.
There is. There is. But, the episode itself, everything leading up to this particular scene doesn't really fit this outcome of the show. You know what I mean? It doesn't support that as being the overall philosophy of the show. You only realize that part in the last couple of minutes of the episode. Uh-oh. Now, her physical appearance does change slightly here, though. So, and look at Kirk.
Yeah. I think Kirk's really proud of the fact that, it looks like her makeup's been touched up. So,
yeah, come on now.
Yeah. And this is all just completely based on the fact that she thinks she took the drug.
Yep. And it's it's amazing to me that she is obviously an intelligent woman.
Yeah.
Obviously. Why she would choose this life boggles my mind. Why she would stay with this obviously ungrateful douchebag in his horrible conditions when she could be on a starship in space, or they could take her anywhere. Could take her to any place. She could. Obviously, she has tons of potential with her intelligence, but she opts to stay with this idiot on this barren, horrible. What kind of life is that? Why would you? For a guy that you just met.
Yeah. Well, maybe she's not. Maybe she's kind of content with that sort of down home.
This is not down home.
But there's not a lot of hustle and bustle. you're away from the hustle and bustle of the city life.
You can't go outside for more than 2 minutes or you're dead. Your skin is flayed off of your body by the sandstorm. I mean, come on, man. Come on, you can't go to the movies, There's no Nintendo. I mean, what do they got? What does she got there? Some pots and pans
and cards.
And rocks.
She can play solitaire for days.
Oh, I'll tell you, nobody can get tired of solitaire.
All right, and now he's finally given up the crystals.
Yep, coming aboard with the lithium crystals. They should upgrade to dilithium.
Yeah. And now they're asking how many are coming up.
Oh boy!
And the girls all decide to stay down on planet.
Oh man, what a sham! What a sham! I'm not sold. I'm not sold on this.
And Mud is going with them ultimately to face charges. And Mud's trying to say, hey, you can, leave me behind, say it was an accident. And Mud is saying this planet would be punishment enough, which is a little bit of a sort of a...
He's supporting my position.
Yeah, but it's also kind of a little hint at what Kirk ultimately punishes someone with in Space Seed.
Yep.
Which leads to one of the greatest movies in the Star Trek film franchise.
Yep. So here we are. We're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, so I guess it's time to start talking about the essential nature of this show. And I'm going to flat out say that I agree with a lot of your arguments about a lot of things that makes you cringe with this show. But I have to say that if not for any other reason than the fact that the show introduces the character of Harry Mudd, we also got to see Kirk sort of tip over to demands when they were in a really, really tight spot. So I think sort of the stance that Kirk takes there, saying that he's basically willing to sacrifice the Enterprise for a greater good, and also the fact that we get the introduction of Harry Mudd, who pops up in future episodes, that those two things alone make this an essential episode.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say this is not an essential episode. And while I do agree with Kirk being tough in the face of adversity, being willing to give up the ship, I think you'll see that happen in other episodes. I think you'll see better examples of that in tighter spots. And, they did introduce Mudd in this episode, but I do think that the second appearance of Mudd is far superior to this in every possible way. It's a smarter episode. It's a much better use of the characters themselves. And I just don't think that this, Mudd is cool and it's a great character, but I think he's much better used in I, Mudd, which is coming up later down the road. So I'm going to go ahead and say this, for me, is not an essential episode. So we are at odds.
All right. Hey, it's not the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time. So thanks, as always, for sitting here and watching Star Trek with us.
Yep.
We will be back next week with What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
July 4th, this place was a madhouse. All these guys are running around in their cute little white wigs. But at noon, they stopped because I, Senor Nobles, was serving my burrito ranchero platter. A big tortilla filled with beef topped with my special sauce served with beans and salad. I said whoever eats the most signs his name the biggest. You can still see a little sauce by John Hancock's name.
Try the legendary burrito ranchero of Senor Noggles.